Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to some of you and peace out to the rest of you. I'm not going through the long intro. Hit the share button, you know why. Apparently, and I learned about this from Obsidian Ali, shout out to you. There are some ladies that are beginning to say, well, look, nice guys don't have to be bad dudes. You can just learn some things from these bad dudes. Now, to ladies that are saying this, I'm going to tell you now, whether you were saying this with an ill intention and malice, or you were saying it without any ill intention and malice, the effect is going to be the same because this is a war. Some of you are the ones fighting the war, others of you aren't fighting the war. I'm not advocating any innocent person be fought against as though they're guilty. What I am going to say to you, though, is that because we are involved in a war, I'm going to tell the men, and I'm giving you a heads up, I'm going to tell the men to only listen to that advice for intelligence gathering purposes as one would do in a war. And the reason I say this is because, frankly, ladies coming out of the West, by virtue of being socialized in the West, I do not believe in your ability to distinguish between kindness and weakness. Really, what many of you are saying is, we can't tell kindness from weakness, so help us out. And what I would say to you is, how about you stop assuming weakness? You don't have to like weak men. You don't have to like strong men either, really. But what I would say to you is, how about you stop assuming that kindness means weakness? You want boundaries, and that's fine and dandy, but let's not act like having boundaries always works either. You respond differently to the same boundaries in different men based on things about them they don't control. You may not know you're doing it, or you may know, but one thing is for certain, those of you that know you're doing it aren't going to stop. You're doing it by virtue of being a lady. Whether you're doing it knowingly or not doesn't really matter to us in the long run. In the short run it does, in terms of assessing malice, but it doesn't matter to us in the long run because you're not going to change it, and you may not be able to. I've had boundaries before my fist fights, and I've had boundaries after my fist fights. Believe you me, those were two. The only thing that changed about their reactions to my boundaries were whether or not I'd had fist fights recently with other black males. Nothing else. There was no other variable. They did not individually vary in their responses to my boundaries except for their looks, to be honest with you. That's the truth of the matter. Simply put, if they were unattractive and I had boundaries, they were more respectful. If they were attractive and I had boundaries, they didn't believe that I meant them until after I fought against other black males. With fist, not arguing. Nothing else got the message across. These were the only variables, as I've said. How did they look and how violent had I recently been that they knew of? When I left my hometown and I went to Atlanta, all of a sudden I had to start all over again. Now this time I'm not a minor anymore. I'm too old to fist fight. So now there was nothing that was going to make them believe that my boundaries were for real, except me leaving. And that's why it rang a bell with me when Sister George told BGS, we black women ain't gonna change till y'all start leaving. She didn't know we had already started. But when she said it, that rang a bell with me, and I can't forget about it because I had already seen nothing makes them know until I leave. By then it's too late. Because by virtue of going back and giving them a second chance, they now have reason to doubt it again. I have to leave and be gone permanently for them to understand who I'm not, but what this means is we can never be together. And I should have understood that what this was going to mean was I can never be with women inside of my own race and nationality. Or even cultural demographic of the West in general. I should have understood it back then, but I was too race loyal. I did say I would not approach African American women anymore. I did say that, but then I was introduced and, got approached and wasn't necessarily mistreated those times either. Now I'm going to tell you something else. And I want y'all to keep this in mind too. For the far and foreseeable future, both you men and women. If you really want men to weed out the immature idiots, be nice. I'm not saying be a pushover, just simply be very kind. Then when they assume you're a pushover and you see it, that's when you come out like, that's when you let the jerk out. My father used to do this. He used to do this to separate co-workers and colleagues. Once he would get seniority in the workplace, he would be very nice so that he could easily be mistaken for a pushover by stupid people. Then when anybody mistook the kindness for weakness, he would take the glasses off and get up in their face. Nobody took him up on the physical challenge. I'm sure it helps that he was 6'1", but everybody ain't scared of that. What they were scared of was that he was unpredictable at this point, to them. But he was predictable to people that did not assume his kindness was weakness. In that case, he was predictably kind because they didn't take it for weakness. Now, gentlemen, we already know Western women, malicious or not, are not going to recalibrate themselves and start saying there's a cultural F-up in us that makes us assume that kindness is weakness. We know they ain't gonna do that, so what do? You simply weed out the ones that won't do it, and if it's all of them, so be it. If it's only 10% of them that get weeded out, so be it. However many fail the test, you leave them. And you test them with this. Not that you never have boundaries, but if you're a kind person generally, or if you're kind to those that are kind to you, you simply be kind to them, and then when you see them being unkind, you stop. And that's it. Because they need to be taught, really, but that's not our job to teach them. However, they need to be eliminated when they don't figure it out on their own. Because believe you me, you are much more reasonable if you expect them to differentiate between kindness and weakness by virtue of their age and their adulthood than they are when they expect you to read their doggone minds and overlook the fact that they can't tell the difference between the two. You have every right to not only not really take it to heart what they say about learning from bad boys. And granted, I would tell you you can learn from bad guys. But you watch them, see what they do, see what the results are, and learn on your own terms. Don't learn what they tell you to learn because she still can't distinguish, and that's not adult-like. So yeah, sure, learn, but learn on your terms, the way you like, not the way they want you to. Test them with kindness, just to see if they can differentiate, and if they can't, all right, friend zone her. Because if enough guys were doing this, believe you me, they would start understanding, okay, well, we need to stop taking kindness for weakness, and we need to stop crap testing the nice guys to see if they're weak, because we're wrong for making that assumption anyway. Who the hell has to associate that? Now granted, when someone has a gun pointed to their head and they become very nice, even then, that's not necessarily weakness. I mean, it's a gun. But the point I'm making is that you could understand why they're fearful, and you could say that their kindness is based on fear and terror. But that's what a gun pointed to their heads. When you're simply being nice to people because there's no reason not to be, and there's no hostility and nobody's got any weapons pointed at you, if she assumes it is weakness, that means that she's imagining a weapon pointed at you all the time anyway. And she's imagining that you can see these imaginary weapons that she's imagining. Now, if she's imagining all of this, how the F does she expect you to see it if she knows she's imagining it? There's no logic to that, and you're not required to respect the illogic of it. No. We'll learn what we choose to learn from the bad boys and the F-boys. Thank you for the advice, but no thank you. Whether you mean well or not. And I don't say this with any hatred for those who don't mean any harm. But I am corrective of both of you, because if you're malicious, well, God curse you anyway for your malice. And if you're not malicious, then this is still an immature thing, because what you're really saying is, learn this thing that we like. You don't seem to understand that by virtue of being socialized in the West, we realize now, well, we're coming to realize that what you like is ucked up and not really worth considering anyway, because usually it's born out of some sort of immaturity, regardless of your age. You want the bad guys to be nice to you and nobody else. That's really what it is. Come out and say it. Now, you see how stupid that sounds, but you know it sounds dumb. Say it anyway if that's really what you want. Just say it. I want that asshole to be nice to me and nobody else. Okay, well, it's dumb as hell, but admit it. And when it sounds stupid to you, admit to the person you're saying this to, it sounds stupid even to me. I just can't give up this wish, therefore I deserve to be single, because I'm a dumbass. You see? Now you're talking like an adult, and at least people can have some respect for your introspection. But when you start talking in all these circles instead of saying that what you want is ucked up in and of itself and doesn't make any dodgam further-mucking sense, of course men have to lose respect for you. I have to lose respect for you. Because not only are there these mutually exclusive things that many of you want, but you demand. Now, we all want some things that are mutually exclusive. I'd love to get a hell of a salary and not have to work. I'd love to have clean clothes without ever doing laundry. We all would like some of these things, but what's ucked up about, and matter of fact, let me talk to you brothers, what's ucked up about the wicked witches of the West, and even the ones that aren't necessarily wicked but just immature and stupid, is that they demand and expect these mutually exclusive things just as stupidly as the Bedouin nigger students I used to teach a few years ago before they started improving, demanding and expecting full results and high grades without doing the further mucking work required. And then acting like we're just required to go along with this. No. And just like the students who would go and get their uncles and anybody else with connections to try to run interference with the teachers for doing our jobs and not letting them pass when they cheated or just didn't learn anything, you're going to have the gynocrats and the matriarchs with their mutually exclusive wishes, whether they're malicious or just childish, trying to run interference through you, or trying to run interference on you through the goons and the mandingos to come along with the nigger swagger and tell you that you need to learn from them, or that you need to be so pro-black that you'll tolerate this shuck fit from them. Either one, either approach. Attack either your blackness or your masculinity, or the combination. Attack your black masculinity because you've decided that you're not going to try to supply two mutually exclusive things when what you want is not even mutually exclusive. They're just refusing to serve two at one time. I hope I've made this clear. Shout out to you, Mumi Obsidian Ali, for bringing this out and letting us hear these clips. We've learned what we need to know from so-called bad boys because you call them bad boys. If you're saying that they're bad dudes and that they're jerks, yet you're screwing them, we've learned everything we need to know right there. You refer to them by terms that are not flattering, and you screw them with the least stress, and you give them your best sex and your best years. Simple. You give to them what you take from us. And the things that you look at us in the face and tell us are mutually exclusive. Well, why should we get busy if I gotta take care of you anyway? You need to be the man and provide. You turn around and give to them without telling them that these are mutually exclusive. You might have, when you're young, you might have a stripper or a porn star's body and some money, and you'll spend the money on them and give them the drawers. And then turn around and tell us that you don't lay down with men that don't take care of you. But you want us to learn from them. What we've learned from them is that you're ucked fup. Whether it is out of malice or immaturity, the result is the same. You're ucked fup, not us. What we need to learn, the lesson we need to learn is the one I've been saying. Hey, gentlemen, you see her doing this, you see what she's selecting, you see what she is rewarding according to her own definition of reward and punishment. You see how she reacts to your treatment versus his treatment or mistreatment. Move where this is not okay. And reward better women. Look at whatever she says she wants from you, and then take that and go find better women from other cultures and reward them with what she said she wants and demanded from you. That's the lesson we need to learn from the bad dudes and you. You want us to look at them and not look at what you're doing. You're still off balance. So no, we don't have to respect what it is that you say you want. We're not required to give credence and credibility to that kind of BS and that kind of immaturity. Because what you want's wrong anyway. Now, you are going to be the one to make the choice. Well, I'm not saying we compel you. What I am saying is you're going to deal with the consequences, because we're going to make sure we leave you to them. Better be. Gentlemen, thanks for listening. Assalamu alaikum. And black, heterosexual, nice guy power just because she don't like it.